Welcome to the Public Works Committee. The meeting of the Public Works Committee on Tuesday, February 27th. I now call this meeting to order. Please be advised that FATV is conducting an audio and video recording of this meeting for public broadcast. I ask that anyone else in the audience who's recording this meeting to please identify themselves to the record now by standing and stating your name and city of residence. Seeing no one, at this time I ask that all electronic devices be placed in a silent mode. Tonight we have three members present. Myself, Chair, Councilor Cruz, Councilor Fleming, and Councilor Schultz are here. I invite anyone in the audience who wishes to speak to please approach the podium, identify yourself by name and address, and identify the agenda item on which you would like to speak. Then you may speak on it for no more than 2 minutes.
That's you, yeah.
How you doing? My name's Chris Kuchar. I reside at 399 Cathy Street in Fitchburg. And the agenda item is 032-24 on Andrew Kuchar on behalf of myself about having some brush removed at the corner of Electric Avenue and Rollstone Road at the Rotary. It's a hazard. I feel as the people coming down Rollstone, they just come flying down. And you can't see approaching that Rotary. If you're heading towards Clegon or the Cumberland Farms, I can see straight across. I can see the cars coming up from the ball field, but coming down, you can't, to the left, you can't see the people coming down. And it should be cleared. You know, it's pretty simple. Shouldn't cost a lot of money, I would say, if the city can do it themselves. Good time of year to do it right now because there's no leaves on the trees and you'll be able to see what's going on. That's all I could say. It would help. It would help the people because I just left there a few minutes ago and you can see how the traffic is backlogged because everybody comes to a stop because they see the cars and they think they got to stop. You know, it's a Rotary to yield. So, I mean, it would help. I think it would give everybody a clear view of what's going on, where they can see. And that's all I can say. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Seeing no one.
We're not on that yet, sorry.
No worries. Seeing no one else who wishes to speak, we will now move on to our agenda. The first item on our agenda is to vote to approve the minutes from the previous meeting of January 30th, 2024. Do I have a motion?
I have a motion. I did just review them, and they look good.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Unless there is an objection, we'll take this under unanimous consent. Seeing none, they are approved. We'll now move on to the next agenda item, the DPW updates. Commissioner Erickson, thank you for joining us as always.
Thank you. So with me tonight, I have Jeff Hillman. He's the new superintendent of streets, replacing Gary Withington. He wasn't at the last meeting just because we had a weather event that he was tending to. But I just wanted to introduce him to you all and you all to him. So welcome aboard, Jeff. We're happy to have him. He was formerly the city civil engineer, and now he's moved on to this role as superintendent of streets. So he brings a lot of institutional knowledge, just having been with the city for a couple of years. In addition to a strong background in engineering and construction. So we're definitely fortunate to have him and lucky that he wanted to take on the role. As you all know, superintendent of streets is quite a job. You know, essentially it's 24/7, 365, and you know, kudos to Jeff for taking on the challenge. So with that, I just wanted to give a brief update of some of the major happenings within each of the DPW divisions. So I'll start alphabetically going down the list. So with the cemetery division, we're starting to plan for the final touches on the Memorial Gardens expansion area. That's that little area across from Memorial Middle School. We've got some final pathway paving to do there. And then there'll be a section dedicated to columbarium units. And those are the units where urns are placed. So there'll be some landscaping and whatnot that goes on there. So that expansion is estimated to net us approximately 700 graves. So while that adds to the life of the cemetery, you know, that only buys us another few years. So we still need to look long-term at an expansion across Electric Ave, that other piece of land that the city owns over there. We're also working on an existing conditions analysis for repairs to the mausoleum. So we're starting with that existing conditions analysis to figure out what's wrong with the building, what needs to be done. And the next phase would be to design improvements, and then the phase after that would be construction. So right now we don't have funding for the final design or construction. So once we have a report back from the engineer/architect on the existing conditions, we'll have a better handle on what those costs are going to look like, and then we'll have to get creative and find some funding for that. And then, like I said, long term, we're looking to continue planning that larger expansion across Electric Ave. Any questions on the cemetery division before I move on? Okay.
I have one question.
Sure.
Yes.
Just on the expansion across the street, any idea? You said a few years. Do you think it'll be 3 or 4 years, or do you think it'll be more than that, Nick?
I think it all depends on funding. I mean, ideally, we'd get started on the engineering, design, and permitting of that right now. We did a conceptual master plan back in 2018, so we've got kind of the groundwork of what we'd like to see over there. But due to the terrain and heavy site work that's needed to build a cemetery on that lot, we're estimating quite a few millions of dollars for that expansion. So right now it's unclear where that funding is going to come from.
Oh, that's what I was going to ask. Has there been any funding source identified?
Not as of yet. So that's a big need for the city, is to come up with the funding for that expansion. Once we're out of graves at Forest Hill, there are no other active burial grounds in the city, so that's going to be problematic for the city. So we've got to try to get that in the works as soon as we can.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Just a comment.
Sure. Should I recognize the gentlelady from Ward 5?
I know Councillor Cragen had thought maybe getting some kind of a committee together to sponsor that might be a way to go to get some extra funds needed. And we know it's not going to be quick, and it's going to be expensive, but that was just something that you threw out there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I would encourage the public to check out the Board of Trustees of Public Burial Grounds. So they meet every third Thursday of the month. Usually the meeting's at 9 a.m. over at City Hall. And the meetings are televised and then rebroadcast later on. So I'd encourage people to check that out if they're interested in hearing some more information about that.
Thank you, Commissioner. I have to imagine that there are other municipalities in the area who are kind of running out of room here for their burial sites as well, if we looked into what other cities are doing right now?
I have not, but that's a great point. I'm sure other cities and towns are facing similar issues. So I don't know if the possibility exists for some sort of like a regional cemetery or cooperative cemetery among towns, but that might be a good solution.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Especially if there's a more cost-effective property available in a neighboring community that we could potentially take advantage of. I know the lot across from Electric Ave from the existing cemetery is challenging just due to the topography and location of a stream along the western edge of the property and all that.
Thank you. Do I have any other questions from the committee?
All right, so moving on to Engineering Division. Engineering Division this time of year typically takes the opportunity to work on contracts for the upcoming construction season. This year's no different, so we're working on paving, construction, and pavement preservation contracts. We did just hire a new Engineer 2, so now we have 2 out of 3 positions filled in the engineering office. We also have a vacancy in the civil engineering position, Jeff's former position, but they're more of a projects-based engineer as opposed to someone that's in the engineering office dealing with the day-to-day permitting and construction inspection. So any questions on Engineering Division?
Questions from the committee?
Nope.
Okay. Moving on to Parks. So during the wintertime, Parks staff typically assist the Streets Division just by nature of snow being on the ground and little usage of the parks during this time of year. They help out down in the mechanic shop. They help Jeff's Streets Division crew with other stuff around the city. And this year's really been no different, especially taking advantage of having the extra hands in the mechanic shop has been extremely helpful because we've had limited staffing in the mechanic shop for the past several years. At this point, we are starting to hire mechanics to replace some of those vacant positions or fill some of those vacant positions. So we're in good shape, but we definitely are thankful to the park staff for helping out over the winter. It's been a little bit challenging keeping some equipment running just because it's age and subject to frequent breakdowns and all that.
Right.
So as we move into nicer weather, the parks guys will start clearing brush and gearing up for mowing season and brush cutting season. So they'll be looking to get all their equipment in good working order so that we can hit the ground running in April, May when things start to grow.
Thank you, Commissioner, and hopefully it's sooner than that. We're getting some warm weather now, so
Fingers crossed.
hopefully the spring is going to come early for us this year. Do we have any questions from committee members?
I just had a question on park signs. Nick.
Yes.
Are some of them being ordered? I know Mr. Bunnell had talked about having funds to do that, but he wasn't sure the last time I talked to him about ordering signs, new signs for some of the parks that really need it. And in particular, the one in my ward called the Sadie Quattrelli Park really needs a new sign, and I know one of the constituents has been in contact with me about that.
Yep, James applied for CDBG funding for upgrading the signage at the city's parks. So he applied last year and again this year, and I believe received funding both years. He's in the process of putting together templates and ordering those right now.
I guess there was some question of whether or not there was whether the funds could be used for signs in general or just for instruction signs and all that. Did you hear anything about that?
Yeah, I think the first CDBG application was specific about the type of signs that it was going towards. So there's the actual signs that state the name of the park, then there's rules and regulation signs and a few other different types of signs throughout each of the parks. So I think there was some confusion there as to which type of sign the funding was intended for. And my understanding is he's working through those details with community development right now just to make sure that he's using the CDBG grant funds for the intended purpose.
Okay. I'll have to get back to him about that, or,
Yeah, I can ask him to follow up with you specifically just to let you know where he's at with it.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate
Of course.
that.
Nope, the parks were very active today. I was at Coolidge today, and there was a lot of people down there.
Finally
Enjoying
heard
the weather, yeah.
birds chirping and all that
Oh,
stuff.
yeah, I was chirping.
Okay. Any other questions on parks?
Not for me.
Okay. Moving on to the Water Division. So the Water Division has had a very busy month. I'm sure you've all seen a few of the water main breaks that they've been dealing with the past several weekends. We had a big one at Main Street and Academy 2 Saturdays ago. So that's kept our staff as busy as they are during a typical summer construction season. Aside from that, they're working on a few different large-scale projects. So the Boulder Drive water main replacement project went out to bid recently. We received 4 bids for the project. The apparent low responsible bidder was GEG Construction Incorporated with a total bid of $3,367,355.50. I believe Weston and Sampson has evaluated those bids and has recommended that the city award the contract to that GEG Construction, and that's the direction that we're going to head. But based on those numbers, we've also got Main Street water main replacement project in the works, and we're trying to estimate how far on Main Street our funding will actually go. If you recall, that money was appropriated through the ARPA funds that the city received. So based on the Boulder Drive water main bid costs, we're estimating that we'll get approximately from the Upper Common moving east to approximately Pritchard Street. I don't think we'll have enough funds to continue from Pritchard Street all the way through Moran Square. So we'll have to get creative with where that funding is going to come from. But essentially right now we're designing everything as if we can afford to do the whole thing. And then when we go out to bid, we'll put the section from Pritchard to North Street as an alternate, and then the section from North Street through Moran Square as another alternate, so that we have some flexibility there. If we get really good bid prices, then maybe we can afford to do the whole thing. If we don't, then we'll at least be able to do that base section that we're intending to do. So aside from that, the Water Division's also working on a supervisory control and data acquisition system upgrade project that's been ongoing at the 2 wastewater treatment plants and a few remote sites throughout the water supply and distribution system. And that project is essentially replacing all the brains of what controls the water system. So the treatment process, the water supply system, it's what allows all the pumps and whatnot to talk to each other and allows our operators to see what's going on within the plant and within the different water supplies that we have. So that was a really important project that's actually been in the works since before COVID, believe it or not. Due to various delays with chip manufacturing, it set the project back pretty significantly. But we're finally underway with it. The Falula water treatment plant up on Ringe Road has been just about completed. We're working through some of the debugging that has to occur after the fact, just to make sure everything's up and running and all the sensors and whatnot are calibrated. So once that plant has had an opportunity to run without any problems for a length of time, then we'll move over to the regional water treatment plant, which is the one that we have in Westminster, right off of Route 140 there. And after that site is done, then the project will be complete. But it's very critical that we plan the regional upgrades appropriately, because the whole city can be run off of the regional plant, but the Falula plant cannot supply the whole city. So we have a very limited window of opportunity with which to work at the regional plant. We can only shut it down for like 8 to 10 hours at a time. So if anything goes wrong there and it takes us more than 8 to 10 hours to fix, then that's a major problem. So we're going to be very careful, make sure we've got all our I's dotted and our T's crossed before we undertake that work. So we've been very happy with the contractor on that project, Fall River Electrical. They've done a great job. Our engineering consultant's done a fantastic job, organizing the project and making sure that the construction is executed properly. The engineering company is Arcadis. So this is one of the first major projects we've worked on with them, and we're very happy with the results. And then just real quickly, we've also completed the Oak Hill tank replacement project. That tank is online and working great, so no issues there. And that about wraps it up for the water division. Any questions specific to those projects?
Any questions from committee members?
Nope.
Okay.
I think we're all set. No, I do want to acknowledge the great work, though. I had one of those main breaks right outside of my house recently, and they were out there all night and into the morning, the bright wee hours of the morning. So I can definitely attest to the hard work that they were doing out there. So thank you guys very much.
I'll pass it along. It's tough when it's cold out, and at nighttime too. It's you can't see and you can't feel anything because it's so cold.
Yeah, so they did a very good job, and I had some constituents reach out to me regarding increases in the water from flushing the system. There was some discoloration, and what are this might be a question for the water department, but it was something like for every 100 cubic meters it costs. Do you remember what that number was? I can't remember off the top of my head.
I don't recall off the top of my head, but I know that when we had the main break at Maine and Academy, we lost a substantial amount of water. Mm-hmm. That was, I think, like a 2,300 gallons per minute type break, which is huge, and the erosive force of water is pretty intense too. So that caused some serious damage.
Just how much of the city it affected too.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I spoke with the dispatcher about some of the numbers, and after that she did the math, she said it might increase people's bills by about $5. And I think that's a testament to what the good work that was done in a quick amount of time. So thank you again.
Yeah, and that's it. One overlooked aspect of the water system too is fire protection. So that main break happened on the high service system, which is critical to being able to put out fires within the city. So the quicker that we can get repairs like that completed, the better it is for public safety too. So when breaks like that happen, we're in constant contact with police and fire, just letting them know what's going on. And it's worked out very well. I think there's excellent communication across city departments.
Terrific. Thank you.
And last but not least, we've got the wastewater division. So J.A. Polito & Sons is ongoing with construction on the CSO 10 separation project. So that's the combined sewer separation project happening near the River and Main Street roundabout, that western end of Main Street, Greektown, and that hill up behind Greektown. So they finished the Main Street shutdown this past construction season. They'll be working on kind of the upper reaches of that sewer shed as we move into April and May when the good weather hits. We're also working on the design for the downtown combined sewer separation projects, moving a little bit further east from where we're working right now. So that'll be split up into two phases. The first phase will essentially be from Prospect Street over to, I'd say, roughly like Putnam Street. And then the third phase will be from Putnam Street east towards roughly Blossom Street. Not exactly, the line's a little blurred there just because the sewer sheds for both of those projects are so large. But we're estimating to go out to bid for the first part of that within the next several months. We're working on the final design and permitting. And then we'll bid the last phase of that downtown work out this coming fall. So that the construction for those next two phases will span 2024 through 2026. So we actually have a meeting next week with the mayor's office to discuss all of the downtown construction projects that we're anticipating over the next few years. So water, sewer, and Unitil gas main replacements. So the goal of that meeting is to come up with a strategy of how to best reach out to constituents, businesses, et cetera, that'll be impacted by that work. And just the nature of it being Main Street, it'll be, a large part of the city that's impacted by that work. And then just really quickly, any questions on wastewater division before I move on?
Any questions from committee members?
Nope.
And one last thing, not a DPW division, but Mass DOT is working on 4 pretty high-profile bridge replacements in the city. Right now, they're finishing up the Circle Street Bridge replacement, which is anticipated to be complete April 2024. That's the last date I heard from Mass DOT. They're still out there working, so hoping they're on track with that, and we're open before springtime hits and people start using Crocker Field. They also recently awarded a contract to a contractor for the River Street Bridge replacement project. You may have noticed some survey vehicles out there the past couple of weeks. That's, I believe, VHB doing the construction layout for the contractor. I don't recall the name of the contractor off the top of my head. But they're anticipated to start that work this spring, and that work is estimated to continue for approximately a year. So right through, summer of 2025 next year. And then Mass DOT is also working on the final design for the Water Street Bridges replacement project, and that'll replace both bridges on Water Street, one over the Nashua River and one over Boulder Drive / the railroad tracks. They're estimated to go out to bid with that in 2025 for a 2025-2026 construction timeframe. So I think it'll be very critical to plan our infrastructure work downtown alongside Mass DOT because, we've got really large pipe replacement projects, plus DOT will be shutting down those bridges. So it's going to be very difficult for people to get through the downtown area. So we've got to come up with a solid game plan for that, both for rerouting traffic, for the daily commute, and also for public safety to make sure that police and fire can get to wherever they need to go in the city in a timely fashion. So many challenges ahead for DPW and Mass DOT in that regard. Any questions on that?
Thank you, Commissioner. Do we have any questions?
I'm glad to hear that we'll be having a lot of paving eventually by 2026. Those roads will be all paved and ready to go for the
And coordinated with the bridge work.
Yep. And just an interesting stat, just because it came up with some other conversations I had over the past week. So as part of that combined sewer separation work downtown, there'll be 7 miles worth of paving included in that particular contract. So, I don't think it's fair to burden the water and sewer ratepayers with paving exclusively, but that's definitely a way to start getting ahead, is to require curb-to-curb paving wherever we can with some of these projects.
Absolutely. And that will be in conjunction with Mass DOT, those 7 miles?
That's entirely what the wastewater division is doing. So that's aside from what Mass DOT is doing. Mass DOT is actually helping us pave Route 2A from Princeton Road down through Westminster Street, River Street, down to the roundabout at Kimball River and Daniel Streets. And that work will be occurring sometime late spring, early summer this year. So if you've driven that way recently, especially where you turn from River Street onto Westminster Street or vice versa, right where the intersection of Ashburnham Street is, all those manholes right there are starting to collapse. So it's a tough ride. So that will be addressed as part of Mass DOT's project this coming spring / summer.
That's welcome news for sure.
Yeah, that's a huge help from Mass DOT to the city to get that stretch paved. And they'll be doing some limited sidewalk repair along that stretch too, including ADA crosswalk upgrades in some spots.
That's terrific. Any way that we can tap into the rich funds of the Mass DOT is very welcome.
So that's part of Mass DOT's municipal paving program, where they provide funding to municipalities to pave state-numbered routes that are under local control. So in that case, you've got Route 2A and 31, and that's just one fiscal year for the state. So now that the city is part of that municipal paving program, we'll work with them to identify future years' worth of projects too. So we've got Water Street, Route 12, that's under local control, but it's a state-numbered route. Even Main Street is technically, I believe that's 31. So there's definitely more opportunities to have Mass DOT help the city out.
Nice.
We certainly appreciate you identifying those for the city. Does anyone have any questions for committee members?
Thank you.
All right. Is it all set, Commissioner?
Yep.
All right. I think we'll move on to the next section of our agenda here. New petitions for review, starting with 010-24. Councilor Fleming on behalf of Mary Lutz at 349 Pool Hill Road to install a berm that has deteriorated over the years, which is now causing flooding onto personal property. The chair recognizes the gentle lady from Ward 5 for make opening remarks.
No, it's pretty self-explanatory, but I have a feeling that at some point I'm going to be bringing more of these forward, and the petition might just read all of Pearl Hill Road, from bottom to top.
And we did do a bunch of that paving work out there this past year, but that was really only a Band-Aid for a small portion of the road. There's a lot of other outstanding work out there. The big issue is drainage. We've got to figure out a way to control the water. Aside from installing a multi-million-dollar drainage system out there, there's some simpler, cheaper methods I think we can implement.
Yeah, it's just the ledge out there, and it's a mess.
Yeah.
And this is the lower portion, which isn't as bad.
Right.
Where you did the paving, it's bad, but here, this is just a wear and tear over many years because this just recently started. So.
And there is a project in the works, in design right now, to redo the very lower end of Pearl Hill, right where John Fitch, Pearl Hill, and North Street.
Okay, yeah.
The-
Oh, yes, you're right.
There's 5 concepts that have been put together so far by our engineering consultant for a roundabout there, with various configurations for how to handle Lincoln Street, because that adds another complicating factor to a roundabout
Right.
there. So there's a few ways to handle that, whether we dead end Lincoln Street or make it one way, one direction. There's a few options there, but we've got to run it by public safety, make sure we get their input. They can get their fire trucks, police vehicles, et cetera, in and out of there.
For now, would you suggest that a berm, until we get to work on that roundabout going, is the appropriate measure?
Yes, I agree with the petition as proposed. I think Jeff does too.
And again, no time frame because we are just overloaded with these.
Right.
berms,
I mean,
so.
we haven't caught up on our backlog of berms that have been approved over the past, I'd say, 5 or so years. So, we've got to kind of take them based on priority, what's causing the most damage to city property, private property, et cetera, and tackle those first based on the ones that have been approved. And then outside of the ones that are necessary just to control property damage, the only real fair way to do that is to start at the ones that have been approved most, farthest back, and then, work our way up the list.
Thank you, Commissioner. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second?
I have a motion and a second, and unless we have any objection, we'll take this under unanimous consent. It is approved. Moving on to 031-24, Councilor Kuchar on behalf of Charles Piermarini to investigate the excessive water on Reed Street and to repair, clear out the catch basins. Commissioner?
So I think this is certainly something that the DPW can do. Repairing and cleaning out the catch basins is something that's fairly straightforward. That's something that Jeff can work on with the Streets Division staff. We'll see what we can do about the excessive water. I know this past summer, fall, and winter, we've gotten just a ton of wet weather, a ton of rain. We're seeing groundwater breakout on hillsides throughout the city, so there may not be a whole lot we can do, but we can certainly look into it. I know up on Valley Street, there's some drainage that, has the potential to come down the hill there, so we can check that out, make sure that's functioning as designed. But I would support this petition.
Thank you, Commissioner. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Unless there are any objections, I'll take this under unanimous consent. Seeing none, it is approved. Moving on to 032-24, Councilor Kuchar on behalf of Chris Kuchar to remove the brush at Electric Rollstone Rotary. Commissioner?
So we heard from Chris Kuchar just a few moments ago at the start of the meeting. He's spot on. That corner of the intersection there does provide an issue with visibility. So I think DPW could very easily remove the brush there, and it would improve sight lines on the approach from the hill down to the roundabout. We'd also like to clear out brush on the opposite corner, the other side of Rollstone. Unfortunately, that's private property over there. In the past, we've taken the liberty of going as far back as we feel comfortable, but without written permission from that property owner, we don't want to go too far. And we're doing it under the pretext of public safety. We want to make sure that people can see both ways and accurately judge cars coming into that roundabout. So I think we'll take the same approach with that corner as well.
Thank you. I'm not sure if it was Mr. Kuchar who had reached out to me previously about this. This is one of those right on the edge of Ward 6 there. That's good to know that that's private property, because I've gone in there with my loppers and just done it myself from time to time to clear some space instead of filing a petition. But yeah, whatever we can do to improve sightlines, I'm in favor of. So,
Motion to approve?
a motion
Second.
and a second. Unless we have any objections, I'll take this under unanimous consent. Seeing none, it is approved. Moving on to our held petitions for review, 256-23, Councilor Kuchar on behalf of Brian Rufiange to request a berm to be placed from the intersection of Oak Hill to the storm drain just past 394 Franklin Road. I believe we held this last time. We were going to have a closer look at it, correct?
Correct. I have not had an opportunity to go out there during a wet weather event. I'd like to see how it responds during some rain. Okay. We've had mostly snow up to this point, so I'd like to hold this if possible until I have an opportunity to do that. I know it's supposed to rain tomorrow. Maybe we can go check it out tomorrow.
Sure. I have a motion.
Second.
Hold and a second. Unless there are any objections, I'll take this under unanimous consent. Seeing none, it is approved.
We need to have the gentleman to speak.
Sure, of course. On our final agenda item for petitions 255-23, Councillor Fleming on behalf of Dan Saracen of 75 Klondike Ave to install a berm in front of his property to mitigate flooding from the higher ground across the street. This is another petition that we held last time, pending some more information. We have the property owner here, and I'm going to open the floor if he'd like to come speak about the concern.
Actually, Dan couldn't be here, but he did send his brother and nephew to speak to it.
Terrific.
I can speak a little bit to it. I did speak to him, and he said he's looking to have just, if you're looking at the property, the left side.
Okay.
Where the mailbox is, or?
I have pictures on my phone, too. I don't know.
Can he show?
Yeah, do you mind if I catch up with you after the meeting?
Okay.
We can send them right to us.
So it was just,
Yeah,
I think it's the spot that directly is in front of PS Farm.
Do you know how approximately what length that is? Is it like 50 feet, 25?
From what?
The section that you're looking at, the berm?
No, it's not that long.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe?
20 feet is certainly doable. I think our concern last meeting, you've got that whole curb cut with the parking area in front, and there's the little drive and all that, so we just weren't clear if it was like the whole 275 feet or whatever it was, or just that one little spot, so.
Yeah, it's just, all our pavement.
Would you mind stepping up to the podium and just sharing with us, please? Thank you.
So, all our pavement, like, on that side is buckling because all the water from the road is going down that hill. And you can tell now that it froze and we've had snow and everything that all the pavement is, like, destroyed on that side of our driveway. So, yeah, we just need to divert the water somewhere else because all the water that's coming from, like, Pierce Pierce
Yeah.
Farm Road is coming down and across the street, and then it runs down our road, or our like entrance, and then comes down. So one of many.
Thank you.
But yeah, so I have a bunch of pictures. I took them today. So
Thank you, sir. Maybe it would be best then, since we do kind of want to keep our rules of order here during committee, to maybe hold this and until
yeah,
you can go to the. Is there,
I was going to say, maybe we need an amendment at some point when Nick can, really measure out what is needed, not the whole length of 275 feet.
Yeah, I mean, I know exactly the section that he's talking about. So I would be in support of that.
Okay.
So we
Do I have a
berm for
motion
that,
to
that little
amend?
section.
amend, yeah.
I have a motion to amend 255-23, to amend the,
From 275 feet to about 20 feet.
Yeah.
I think you were measuring the whole front. Is that what you're doing?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. It's just this section that I think that's where all the water is coming. So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, if you want to amend it to a berm across from Pierce Farm Road, then I think that would,
berm of 20 feet across from Pierce Farm Road?
approximately 20 feet across from Pierce Farm Road. I
Okay.
think that would help clarify, and then, let me grab those pictures.
Yeah.
Do I have a motion to amend 255-23 to include approximately of 20 feet across from
Motion.
Pierce Farm Road?
Motion, I'll second that motion.
All right, I have a motion and a second to amend 255-23. Unless there are any objections, we'll take this under unanimous consent. It is approved. Do I have a motion? Do I have a motion on the approved petition?
Motion to approve the petition.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the petition as amended. Unless there is any objection, I'll take this under unanimous consent.
Could I speak on the motion? I'm just wondering, do you think, Nick, that this is a more critical one, that we need to do it before a couple of years go by?
I think so. Based on what I saw out there a couple of weeks ago when I drove through the area, there is some heavy erosion across some Pierce Farm Road, so.
And they are a direct hit.
Yeah, and I think
It's a direct hit.
any of those where it's causing like major property damage bumps it up in the priorities.
Okay, I was hoping you'd say that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Some berms are for aesthetic purposes. Some are to prevent people from driving up onto a lawn. Some are for control of water and erosion. I would say the ones that are for control of water and erosion, particularly ones resulting in property damage, are the highest priority.
Not to say that we have quite a few in my ward as well that are causing property damage, city and private, so, yeah, they're all needed, so,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you. Again,
Motion to adjourn.
I think we still have to approve the,
Oh, didn't we just approve it?
he spoke on it first, so we do need to
Oh.
approve it.
Yeah, we need to approve it.
So I have a motion to approve 255-23 as amended.
Motion.
Motion.
All right, and seeing no objections, it is unanimously approved. There is no other business today. That concludes our agenda for this meeting. The next regular meeting of the legislative body is scheduled for, Commissioner Erickson, help me out here. I do not have this one in my
March
calendar yet.
30th, March.
It will be March 26th.
March 26th. Thank you, Commissioner. The next regular meeting of the Public Works Committee is scheduled for March 26th. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Seeing no objection, we'll take this under unanimous consent. We are adjourned.